I'm Alan O'Callaghan, and this is my SSI Fellowship application for 2025, entitled Practical Version Control Software for Researchers. A little bit about my background. I'm currently a research software engineer in the University of Edinburgh, where my primary work is on the QPath project, which is Java-based bioimage analysis software averaging about 30,000 monthly downloads. My previous life, which went from industry into a PhD into a postdoc, was in bioinformatics and biostatistics, where I focused on data analysis and method development for genomics data, things like RNA sequencing data. What do I do? Well, outside of my primary responsibilities, I have advocated for a good computational practice, which includes talks to local R and bioinformatics user groups on good development practices, and also internal talks in the MRC Human Genetics Unit and the QPath group on Git and on how and why you should publish software. I've also created a workshop as part of the Edinburgh Data Science and Public Health Project, EdDash, wherein I undertook carpentries instructor training and developed and now maintain the course High Dimensional Statistics with R. I also maintain software, so I maintain a number of R and Python packages. The R packages are listed on the right-hand side of the screen, as well as maintaining parts of the OSCA online book, where OSCA is orchestrating single-cell analysis with Bioconductor. What do I want to accomplish with this fellowship? Well, I would like to encourage early career researchers to use and perhaps even to like Git. I would like to empower people to tell stories outside of the traditional publishing paradigm. I would like to enable people to move beyond the very basics of version control. And I would like to help researchers to version their analyses and the machine learning models alongside their datasets. Why is all of this important? Well, many people could use Git, but they won't learn it because they don't know the benefits themselves. And this is perfectly rational if you think about it. It's all well and good to tell people that version control is an important part of research integrity and good research practice, but unless people can see a concrete benefit to themselves or their careers, there's little point in picking it up, and there's even less of a point in really building aptitude in it. And secondly, biomedical research is immensely complex, and a lot of the really interesting stories that come out as part of a paper often get buried in the supplementary material, which is typically very, very limited in scope and in the types of outputs that can be included. Thirdly, computational researchers often learn the basics of Git, sort of a commit, push, pull workflow, but not the really useful stuff that becomes increasingly important as you work on more long-running and complex projects, and especially when it comes to complex collaborative projects. Finally, data sets and analyses, including machine learning models these days, are increasingly complex, large, and multimodal. When it comes to data sets, that can involve different modalities being added, removed, or tweaked as QC pipelines change. And when it comes to analyses, machine learning models nowadays often go through many hundreds of iterations of different parameter choices, different augmentations, different input data, and different architectures. And it's incredibly important to be able to tie these different analyses and these different data sets together in a meaningful way when it comes to recalling the history of a project as it comes closer to publication. Now, how will I accomplish this? Well, I would like to develop 2 short courses in the carpentries format. The first will be focusing on publishing online documents with Git and GitHub. Now, I might hear you say, another Git course, is that what we need? Well, I would argue that by focusing on a gentle introduction to static site builders and how this can enable you to tell your story outside of the traditional publishing formats, that we can teach people that Git has real benefits to them without expecting them to turn up to a Git course of their own accord. And secondarily, this can focus as an introduction to CI pipelines for software users and developers who might already know some Git but wouldn't be familiar with tools like GitHub Actions and GitHub Pages that can be very, very useful. The second course that I'd like to develop is focusing on going beyond push and pull, so beyond these basic Git workflows, and how Git can help you to do better research faster. Now, there's definitely some eye rolling going on here where 2 other Git courses is really a bit excessive, but again, I'd argue that this fills a niche that isn't filled by existing courses. The focus here will be on a highly interactive course based on a real repository with real world problems, and to focus on being a hands-on guide to sort of more advanced Git commands, where we build confidence with Git history and perhaps rewriting it in some cases, and also with managing versions, whether that's managing versions concurrently using branches and the like, or managing versions over time using things like tags and releases, and how these can be used to version different types of output, so things like models and datasets. Now, what do I need to do this? Well, I would need some instructor training of some form. Now, thankfully, I've already undertaken the carpentry's instructor training. I would also need some experience with lesson development, and likewise, I've been lucky enough to get this as part of the Edinburgh Data Science and Public Health project. I would also need some support in organising and running a workshop hackathon. The goal here is to engage with the research community, get input from other potential instructors and indeed from potential learners on the form and content for these workshops to make them maximally useful for the community that they'll be used by. I would also need some support in organising and running pilot workshops with the goal of getting numerous, diverse and enthusiastic learners and helpers to really make sure the content is as polished as possible before releasing it to the wider community. I would also need some support and collaboration with the wider RSC community by attending things like RSCCon, and this fellowship would really help with these last three goals. Lastly, I'd like to thank you for your time, attention and consideration, and I'll leave you with this lovely quote by Audrey Urey if you should care to read it. Thank you.